I'm going to walk you through the Healthy Relationships pack. This is designed by Sharifa Energy in partnership with the Mayor of London's Young People's Action Group. We've tested this pack with groups from age 8 up to age 16 and find that with tweaks, it works really well across all the age groups. So this is our icebreaker exercise, and this is a question that we actually use with all of our audiences at WOW. It's an excellent way to open up the conversation about gender equality and gender equity. You'll see hands up if you'd like to see a gender equal world, and hands up if you think a gender equal world is possible. A really nice adaptation for this is to find a way for the young people to silently vote, so they're a little bit less influenced by their peers and following a popular opinion. You might do this by them voting very close to their body, for example, if they're all facing in the same direction, or maybe they close their eyes and vote. This is an activity that can take a few moments, or it can really develop into a much longer discussion. Thank you, Catherine, my colleague, sharing slides, because I'm clearly not managing to do that today. Thank you. We can see in the next slide that we offer suggested definitions of the terms gender equity and gender equality, as well as acknowledging the intersectionality of the discussion and the inclusion of all genders into the discussion, which may be especially pertinent for mixed gender settings or if you're working with an all boys group. The video, which we see in the next slide, is from Sharu Izadi, and it poses the very important discussion question: how do you encourage and support your friends and family? On the next slide, you'll see that in the activities, we start to think more about our relationship to ourselves, working towards thinking about self-esteem specifically. The questions you see here exist on separate slides, and that means there's the opportunity to maybe reflect about them on paper, in discussion pairs, or part of a group. For Key Stage 3 and above, you may also maybe like to add the question, what does having healthy boundaries mean to you? And to develop the discussion about how boundaries can be a way of taking care of ourselves and a way to avoid getting stressed or feeling resentful, disappointed, or angry towards yourself or others. As you can see on the next slide, a very wonderful definition of self-esteem was created in the development of these packs by the London Mayor's Young People's Action Group. But please feel free to explore your own. We would absolutely love to hear from you of the definitions that your group have for their self-esteem. You'll also see in this pack that there are some principal affirmations available that were written by the young people who developed the pack, and they're really lovely. In the next slide, you'll see this self-esteem uplifting activity. And this activity involves thinking about supporting ourselves through resilience, affirmations, and self-care. And this just gives some ideas how we can boost our own self-esteem. To adapt this, you could explore turning this into an art activity, or maybe making something that could fit into a lanyard or a phone case or into a planner. And of course, it's very unique to each cohort that you're working with. And then the extended activity of the pack, and the next slide, is a love letter to yourself. Some cohorts have described that the young people find this awkward, especially when it's older groups. But I think it's actually because of the awkwardness that makes this really valuable. It's a really, really great moment to think a little bit more deeply about possible adaptations that really work for your young people if self-esteem is a barrier. And in terms of this, I'm going to have a little bit more information from Marie. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. Absolutely. So from a practical standpoint, you could adapt this activity by making it into maybe a verbal recording, or alternatively use a storyboard or comic strip template to express the things that young people would like to say. However, it's worth noting that at this point, some of the barriers which young people may face when thinking about their self-esteem, self-worth, and their relationships to others as well, especially thinking about how empowering it is for young people to be able to discuss the negative emotions they feel as well as the positive. So a different way to frame this discussion perhaps could be to ask, what could impact my self-esteem? What effect can low self-esteem have? For the letter writing exercise, it may be easier for a young person with low self-esteem to write the letter to them, but from the perspective of a friend or maybe a trusted adult. So to provide a bit of distance for them. They could equally write it to their past self, or maybe even their future self, if the present feels like too difficult to write about. We've offered a couple of specialist organisations here, but do feel free to add to this slide with any organisations or in school or in service support mechanisms or organisations that you know. We're aware that sessions such as this can bring up different challenging thoughts and feelings and may lead to young people making disclosures. So it's worth being ready for that and having some plans in place as well.
Thank you so much, Marie. Let's please take this moment to kind of reflect on that first activity pack. We really hope that it sparks creativity and great discussions in your settings.